taking constructive action on climate change. So welcome to the people who are joining. We've got a couple of minutes still before we start, and we're expecting quite a lot of people. Is there anything else I need to say? Oh, it's good if you can join with your video on. It's good because it makes it a little bit more friendly, and we can see if we're killing you with boredom or if we're giving engaging content. We'd like to know it's engaging. And so, morning. That's good to see a little wave there from Nicholas from I can't see where you're from. What's that, Nicholas? Do unmute yourself and tell us, because I can't see what that says.
It's Vipakon, and it's from Laos.
From Laos? Okay.
But I'm French.
Oh, you're French. Okay, right. You've got me absolutely intrigued now. I might have to start asking you in the chat box. That's the other thing. We use the chat box a lot. Do feel free. Oh, great. Christopher is cycling. That is impressive. Please keep your eye on the road. As we know, it's often other road users that can cause the problems for cyclists. And multitasking, that's very impressive. Yeah, so do everyone who's just joined, do please add where you're from, because you might find somebody else from the same town, village, parish. Do feel free to use the chat box, ask lots of questions or say hello in the chat box. Share contact details with people if you want, because these events are often a good place to find people with similar interests or from a similar area. And any minute now we will start. So I'm going to hand over to Emma in a moment from Octopus Energy. The point of this, the reason we did this event, and I'm slightly uncomfortable that we've just used one large electricity supplier, but we work with a lot of community energy groups, work with energy champions. Lots of community energy groups give lots of energy advice to people within their community. And certainly the people at Avesco, who we work with a lot, give lots of energy advice. And the energy champions that I knew were really keen to learn a little bit more about the Octopus flexibility tariffs. So we thought it would be very valuable for people to hear about this, both from a personal perspective, because we could all do with figuring out what's the best tariff for us. And I'm not saying it for any way that we should be using Octopus. It's just when we looked around for who had the biggest range of most interesting tariffs, Octopus were really the only people that we could find. So hence working with Octopus. But my sense is the people who've joined today will be, we're all consumers. Many of us are energy champions or work with energy champions. And of course, as community energy groups, we're always looking for ways to support our community, markets for any generation projects we may have created, or ways to support local businesses. And Octopus have a really wide range of, can't think of another word, but things, and that's not the right word, but a wide range of offers that may be of value to us. So let me hand over now to Emma Fletcher from Octopus Energy, and she can introduce herself, Octopus, and some of her colleagues.
Morning, everyone, and thanks very much, Liz. Full disclosure, my name's Emma Fletcher. I've been the Low Carbon Homes Director at Octopus now for nearly 6 months. But however, the reason I am actually here is because entirely of community energy. So I set up a community land trust in my village, and I am one of a couple of people that helped start and push along the Swaffham Power District Heating Scheme. So for those of you who don't know, we are the first rural retrofit district heating scheme in the country, in the village. Article in the Sunday Times, picked up by Greg Jackson. We had a chat, we got on really well, and now I'm here at Octopus. So I'm a huge champion of community energy, and that's something very, very close to my heart. However, we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about what we can offer to all of our existing customers, new customers, and for communities around the country. And so we are very keen to engage and talk about what we can offer. But obviously, as Liz said, other electricity providers are available, and we welcome you to always do the best by yourselves and the people you work with. Full disclosures. There we go. In terms of who else has come along today, I have Max Maximilian Laker, who is our senior brand ambassador. He's going to talk to you about the residential tariffs that we have on offer. We've got Kev Thomas, who has the amazing job of being our director of Eco4 and trying to target and find those people on low incomes in order to improve their homes. And Becky Pinchbeck is here as our engagement lead from the business tariff side. And we're actively out looking for smaller businesses to help them as well. And then I will round off with our zero bills proposition, because it turns out we don't really have job descriptions in Octopus. You just have a job title. And therefore, my job is actually how to eradicate electricity bills for customers, which seems a bit weird coming from an energy provider, but that is our real aim. So we're here to help you. We want to innovate. We want to challenge. We want to move the industry on. We want to do the best by our customers and also best by the planet. So we're here to engage, question us, challenge us, and hope you enjoy the presentations.
Thanks, Emma. So I think we're going to hand over to Maximilian Laker first of all, who gives your who's going to talk about the flexibility tariffs, the range available to consumers. I can't see you, Maximilian.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there you are. Great.
Yeah, so it's I've been part of Octopus for about 3 years now. Done mainly field sales, but also dabbled in solar operations, inbound, all sorts of wealth of knowledge. I'll talk to you a bit about our most popular domestic tariffs. If I was talking about all our tariffs, we'd be here for about 2 hours. So I'll start off essentially. Some of our most popular tariffs would be Octopus Tracker, Intelligent Octopus Go, and the export tariffs, so outgoing Octopus and Octopus Flux. So we essentially, to figure out which tariff is best for you, it depends on what you have in your home, whether you have just a heat pump or just an electric vehicle, just solar panels or a combination of all three, or nothing at all and just a smart meter. All of our smart tariffs are best suited to smart meters, because as Emma said, we've tried to innovate the industry using technology and working well and intelligently with the grid and the wholesale rates to try and hand over the best savings to you. If you want to find out sort of a quick way to see which tariff is best for you, we do have a smart tariff matchmaker as well. All you have to do is Google Octopus tariff matchmaker, and you can find out which one's best for you at just a brief glance. The one I get most excited about is Octopus Tracker. I suggest this to everyone who I talk to out in the field. If they have a smart meter, or if they don't, we can install one. Because it works half intelligently with the grid, every half an hour the rates change essentially, and that's where every energy supplier buys the energy from the wholesale grid. So the tracker works with that, and it gives you a different rate every day. We do have Agile, which is more for the tech-minded, a bit more savvy, want to focus on every single half-hourly rate. But Tracker takes that stress away and just gives you an average for each day. It changes every day, and it is based on your region. So, for example, for the southeast today, it's about 16.35p for the electric and 4.02p for gas. So it's really, really cheap. It does change every day, and it doesn't follow the government price cap, but there is a cap to it. I'll go over that in a minute. So it's available for gas and electric, and it's published on your app on the website, so you can have a look every day what the rates are. You do need a half-hourly meter for it to work. So as it says, obviously over the warmer months like summer, it's going to be lower, and then winter it's going to be almost double, but at least higher. But like I said, it's winter right now, and the rates are 16 and 4. So it's almost half of what they are at the moment.
Wow.
It's like I said, it does have a cap. So it's not the actual price cap, but it does cap off at 100p for electric and 30p for gas. So you're not exposed to if rates suddenly go extremely high, which is what the off-gen price cap is for. If you want to leave Tracker, it's not an instant process. It takes up to about 2 weeks to leave it. Likewise, it takes up to 2 weeks to jump onto it. But if you do ever leave it, because it's technically a fixed tariff, you need to wait another 9 months before going back onto it. I say fixed. It's not this because there's no exit fees. So if you do leave it, you're not penalised. But it's fixed because the standing charge is the same across the 12-month period. And yeah, like I said, you do need a working smart meter to go onto Tracker. It takes a few weeks usually, depending on your area. If we don't have any smart meter engineers in your area, then we'll need to wait till we get one there, or enough people want interest to get smart meters installed, and then we can send one out. But I love Tracker. I suggest it to everyone. I'm trying to get a smart meter installed myself, so I can go onto it. Landlords pushing back a little bit. All my colleagues are on Tracker. Yeah, it's really good. The only real downside is if rates do suddenly go up, like the wholesale market gets affected hugely by, what has been going on in Ukraine, Russia, the Suez Canal, Yemen, all those kind of things, then you are affected by those wholesale rates if it goes above what the off-gen price cap is. But then, like I said, there's no penalty to leave, so you can always jump off it. For electric vehicle owners, we have 2 electric vehicle tariffs. The most popular one is Intelligent Octopus Go. You do need either a compatible car or compatible charger to go onto it, because it works with intelligent charging. Essentially, you tell us the times where you're able to charge it or you're at home, and then we can charge it at the greenest, cheapest times during the day. And then as well overnight between 11:30 and 4:30, then you'll be getting 7.5, sorry, 11:30 and 5:30, you'll be getting 7.5p. And that's across your whole home, not just your car. So you can put your dishwasher on, your washing machine on, get up in the morning, cook meal for the rest of the day, and really save there. It works really well with the greenest and cheapest times. So it's a really good tariff for those with either sort of like, I know the Omi Pro and the Zappi EV chargers are compatible. More are being tested, and there's a whole range of brands that work well. You can find out if your brand or charger is compatible by going to our website, and you just type in what brand of charger you have, what electric vehicle you have, and then we'll tell you if it's compatible or not. If it's not compatible, then there's Octopus Go, just our standard EV tariff. You don't have to have any compatibility, just to be able to charge your vehicle. So whether it's a 3-pin, which isn't very fast, you're not going to be getting much charging out of that, but at least some kind of charger. Then it's just 2 hours less, it's slightly higher. So it's 4 hours at 9p. So it's not as good as Intelligent. We are working on getting more vehicles and chargers optimized to work with Intelligent Octopus, but Go is a good middle ground for those wanting to eventually transition. Getting onto solar, again, I've worked very closely with the solar team, doing solar sales for about 6-7 months, going to our R&D center in Slough and seeing how it all works, as well as the heat pump side of things, which is really exciting. But as far as export, we have our first 2 tariffs that we came out with was the outgoing Octopus. That comes in 2 flavors. You've got your Agile, which is quite similar to Tracker, where it tracks the wholesale rates. Gives you either an import or export or both. And you can have your rates essentially changing throughout the day with your import and export. So all the prices can be seen through the app or through the website, and you can track that quite closely. Or if those who just want to know they're guaranteed 15 pence per kilowatt hour for every unit you export, then there's the fixed option. That just gives you a bit more peace of mind that, if rates are going to be really low and you're not going to be getting that 15 pence for your export, then at least you know what rate you're going to be getting. There's also Octopus Flux, which is really good. There's no reason to not go on this if you have a battery as well as solar. I say a battery because you need to have a battery for it to work. So Octopus Flux, essentially, there are 3 different rates. There's the peak rate between 4 and 7. There's the day rate, which is all the rest of the time, and there's the flux rate, which is between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., 4 a.m. Essentially, you'll be able to, if you want to buy cheap energy overnight and sell it during the peak rate, by all means. but essentially lets you make the most out of your solar, because even the day rate tends to be higher than the fixed outgoing. And again, you can find your rates. The rates are different per area. All you have to do is search Octopus Flux into Google, and then you can scroll down the page, put your postcode in, and check the rates for your area. Generally across the board, it's around 29 to 30p at the moment for the peak, for the export, which is really good. It's almost double what the Octopus fixed is. Now, again, all these tariffs are always changing because they work well with the grid. So whatever the rates are today, they could change over time. If rates go down considerably than what they are now, then again, these rates will reflect that. Now with intelligent Octopus Flux, again, it's a enhancement on our Octopus Flux tariff. It essentially takes the stress away for you. So we do all the automation. We control your batteries charging. We control when you're importing and exporting to give you more peace of mind for your solar and battery to give you the most out of it. It's better to be on an export tariff already. It just makes the transition process a bit easier. If you're not already on an export tariff, you just need to go through the process of sending your MCS certificate, getting onboarded, and going on the waiting list to get onto the export tariff. So it's just a bit more seamless if you're already exporting. And like Flux, you do need to have a battery, and only Give Energy branded batteries are supported at the moment, which is the ones that we install. So we've been installing solar for about a year and a half now. We offer Give Energy batteries. So that's the ones we've managed to work well with Intelligent Octopus Flux. Like Flux, it has 2 different rates rather than 3. It has your standard rate, and then it also has the peak rate between 4 and 7. And it's an import and export tariff. So you're essentially importing at the same rate you're exporting, and vice versa. So essentially, you will be controlling that for you. So like I said, it takes the stress a bit away from you, and will be helping to charge your battery at the greenest times, and then discharging your battery at the peak times, so you make the most out of it. Just saves you from setting all the controls yourself on your battery app, and essentially just putting it to the back of your mind. And if you're ever concerned or wondered which tariffs go with which, we do always update our list on compatibility. So for example, as you can see, you could be on Octopus Tracker, getting your import rates at the wholesale price, and go on outgoing fixed if you have solar. So you're guaranteed 15p per kilowatt hour, and you're making the most of the wholesale rates. So as I said, today the rates for my area in Southeast England are about 16.35. So you could be importing your energy for that. And then if you have excess energy, like you have 15, 16 panels on your roof, you'll be exporting at about 15p. So it's a no-brainer. And that's mainly a wrap up of our consumer smart tariffs. I'll be open for questions anytime, or probably at the end. But I think now I'm passing over to Kevin to talk about our Eco4 scheme.
Yeah, thanks so much, Max. There are lots of questions, some really useful, they're all really useful questions, some kind of more systemic, and some which look like they might be possibly sort of individual consumer issues. But let's tackle some of those questions after all of the presentations, and do keep pouring in the questions, everyone. The only thing is, we'll head over to Kevin, but Emma, are you able to, Keith Lodden has a question about the sourcing of the electricity, and he's got to go shortly, so are you able to respond to that in the chat while Kevin starts his presentation?
Okay, hello everyone. I'll share my screen and then I'll flick over to the slideshow. Mine are primarily around 2 schemes. One is the Eco scheme, one is the GBIS scheme. I'll explain them both. It's very high level to sort of educate you in what those schemes are and what is available. However, it doesn't drill down to specific property by property level. So I'm hoping you guys can see that now. Can you see that okay? So we'll start with ECO and GBIS. Acronym central in our world, but I will explain each one. So please don't worry, there'll be no test after this. So we start with the first scheme, which is around funding. So ECO is aimed at multiple measures. I'll talk about ECO in a second. Higher funding to insulate solid walls because ECO offers a better rate per annual bill savings. We speak in a language of annual bill savings, ABS. If you think about an EPC, you insulate a home, you install an energy efficiency measure. Normally at the bottom of the EPC certificate, it actually says this has an annual bill saving of £100, £200, etc. All utilities with more than 200,000 customers have an obligation, and that obligation is in the currency of annual bill savings. So when I talk about ABS, sorry, I'll just go off talking about ABS. It's based on the savings per measure per property. The more ABS, annual bill savings, so draft proofing doesn't have as many annual bill savings as solid wall insulation, etc., the more funding is then generated because our obligations are based around a volume of annual bill savings. GBIS, which we'll talk about after ECO, is primarily aimed at cavity wall insulation and loft insulation. And it's to pick up the measures that were not previously installed probably 10 years ago when we had other obligations that were mass cavity and loft insulation obligations. What is really key is it's not just about I can go and insulate a loft, that's it, I've generated annual bill savings. It has to be carried out to strict standards, and that is monitored by Ofgem, who are obviously our administrator for the obligation, a company called Trustmark, a company called PAS, that are the publicly available specification as set out by the government. So there's lots of administration around this to make sure that the people that receive these measures receive professionally installed measures, not something that has just been installed by their brother or their cousin, etc., etc. So if we look at the actual funding streams, as we sit here today in 2024, we have solid wall insulation, that's a funding stream, primarily under ECO. We improve homes through multiple measures, so not just one measure. When it's ECO, it can be solid wall insulation, a heat pump, and PV. There are rules around the order of measures and when measures can be installed, but the primary objective here is to save people money, save the fuel poor money, save energy, and that must be done in a professional way. So there's no point in fitting a heat pump in a home with no insulation because it just can't work properly, and it actually gives heat pumps a bad name. So we have to insulate and have what we call a fabric first approach. Then next year, 2025, we've still got the same approach. However, the current ECO scheme ends in March 2026. There will be another. We know there'll be another. It may have a catchy title like ECO 5 even, but there'll be another scheme, but we don't have the rules around that at the moment. So let's start with ECO. ECO is funding based on the EPC rating of a home linked to various benefits. So I've listed the benefits. If someone is on child tax credit, working tax credit, etc., all of those they're more than likely eligible to receive ECO help. Invariably, under ECO, there are anomalies. Invariably, that will be primarily free help. So it could be, depending on the property, and as I say, if the property can't have insulation because of its construction type, damp in the walls, there's many options there, then it can't receive insulation, then it can't receive better renewable help. But for owner occupiers under ECO, they can receive renewable heating systems, PV, only if there's a renewable heating system, solid wall insulation, loft insulation, cavity, and room in roof insulation, which is basically where a loft area has been converted. When I say E to G, that's EPC ratings currently. So owner occupiers in a property E to G can receive that. Again, there's quirks. So there's little twists where a band D property could receive it if there's certain measures installed, but primarily it's around owner occupiers E to G. Private rented sector, they can only receive upgrades to their renewable heating by having renewable heating installed. And this is where we look at gas boilers are not part of eco. You can receive help to exchange a gas boiler, but it's very limited compared to previous schemes. So private rented sector with an EPC band of E to G receive very similar measures to owner occupiers. Social housing, again E to G, again receives certain measures. However, again, it goes back to this band D properties. If the right measures are installed in the right order and it starts getting complicated, they can also receive help. But this is a cross the board example. There are options where flexible eligibility can be decided through a local authority, which then overrides the child tax credit, working tax credit route. But it's just there. If you have housing stock available that needs help, this is where eco could help you. Then we talk about the Great British Insulation Scheme. This was launched in September last year. And again, it links back into eco and finishes in March 2026. For owner occupiers, we are primarily looking at loft insulation and cavity wall insulation. Other measures can be funded for owner occupiers. However, they will require a top-up of funding from the homeowner, the owner occupier. So we are primarily promoting the free to end user measures because it gets very complicated trying to explain to someone, you could have had cavity wall for free, but your solid wall insulation is £7,000. It's all around the bill savings it generates. Anyone can go and check out what they actually can and can't get under GBIS. It's not around fuel poverty benefits. It's more around an EPC rating and a council tax rating of A to D in England or A to E in Scotland and Wales. I'll make these available after the presentation. So if you've got any questions, I rattle through this because I do this every day. So I'm sorry if I'm just going too quick. For private rented sector under GBIS, for some reason, Ofgem have decided that loft insulation and cavity insulation is not available under GBIS for private rented homes. There are partial funding options for solid wall, pitched roof, etc. But for some reason, private rented is out of scope for GBIS. For social housing, it's back in scope. So loft insulation and cavity wall insulation are back in scope. But everything refers back to a council tax banding of A to D and an EPC rating of D to G. So that's a high level overview. The rules we have to work with are all of the installers of measures have to be PAS accredited, publicly available specification. They're monitored, they're checked, they're audited to keep their PAS accreditation up to date. We insist as part of this program, not only are the measures installed by a PAS accredited installer, but they also come with an insurance-backed guarantee. And we identify accredited installers in every area. So we do have installers that are PAS accredited, but you could go to any utility, back to Emma's point, you can go to any utility for this same information and this same support. So the work is funded by utilities, but you can use an intermediary. So you could use what we call a managing agent. So there are companies out there that offer funding from various utilities and have a network of installers. So the relevant installer engages with a funder, they get their accreditation, they agree a volume of annual bill savings with the likes of myself or a managing agent, and then they deliver that monthly up until March 2026. If you've got any questions, I've plonked on the bottom our eco-admin email address. But that's eco-GBIS in a nutshell, and hopefully I wasn't too fast at going through that.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I hope that was valuable for the people that are out there giving energy advice. I'm doing 2 or 3 things here, watching the amazingly technical questions and answers that are going on within the chat. Thank you, Maximilian, for knowing so much technical stuff. Can I hand over now, and thank you very much, Kevin. I do appreciate learning a little bit more about Eco4. Yeah, I'll leave it there for now. Becky, can I hand over to you now? Becky's going to talk a little bit about the tariffs available for businesses. So for those of us who are working in business or advising businesses, I'm hoping this will be also very valuable.
Hello. So I am in the office today. It is relatively loud, so I do apologise if it gets a bit much. Just let me know and I'll do what I can, I guess. So just trying to get this in. There we go. Can everyone see that? Perfect. So yeah, so basically I am in our business commercial team. So I'll just have a quick run through of our current tariffs that we've got available for kind of small business. And yeah, same again, if anyone's got any questions, just pop it in the chat or just ask and I'll do my best to answer. If I can't, then it'll be a case of kind of coming back and figuring it out. So just a bit of background really. So Octopus Energy for Business started up in 2018, and so far we have smashed our targets. We're able to give transparent and fair kind of costs and bills and tariffs for small to medium-sized enterprises. So that's our kind of key target market. We have exceptional customer experience and service from our energy specialists. And yes, we basically provide 100% renewable energy for business. So just a quick outlay of our import and export. So import is obviously the energy or electricity that you get imported into the business. So we've got our standard 12 months fixed tariff. We have a 12 months fixed with no standing charge. So with that one, the price of the kilowatt hours are kind of, they're up a little bit, but you obviously then don't have the standing charge alongside that. And some businesses do prefer to just not have the standing charge at all. And then we've very, very recently, this week, I believe, brought back our 24 months fixed tariff since the energy crisis. So that's very exciting for us. We also have an export tariff, which is called panel power. So that's specifically designed for small businesses that have the ability to export their kind of excess power that they save and don't use. So then we've got, I don't know if anyone's got any questions about just our standard tariffs. So then we've got our special products. So shapeshifters is a time of use tariff, so it's a tri-band tariff. So similar to some of the tariffs in residential, it's a day, night and peak. So if businesses can shift their energy usage outside of the peak times, then they end up saving kind of up to 10% of their energy bill, which is a good option. And that is available for customers that sign up and then wish to transfer onto shapeshifters. So Then we've got Max Power Connect and Max Power. So these are special products for larger business. They are pretty cool in terms of what they do and how they work. So I've got another few slides which just kind of go into detail on them. So the export tariff that we have is, yeah, basically we match your energy usage, and then anything that's generated that isn't used by the business is exported back into the grid. And then the business gets a little bit of money on that, which is nice. So shapeshifters, again, that is a time of use tariff. So you can see here the pricings on the tariff is kind of the pink line. So you see that kind of peak period there between 4 and 7 p.m. Outside of that, you're kind of charged a normal day rate. And then between midnight and 7 a.m., your prices are much lower. So we really encourage businesses to go on there that maybe have like fleet charging, because then they can charge overnight, it costs them less, and you know, when you come in the morning, everything's getting ready to go. So Max Power Connect, this is a kind of real-time match for energy. So the idea of this is you can choose where your renewable energy comes from, which is quite a nice little story for businesses if that's something that they want to be able to kind of share with their customers. So you can choose from 3 of our 5 wind and solar farms within the UK where you can get your energy from. And then that is basically how it works. And then we've got Max Power, which is very similar names, I know, not to be confused. So Max Power is if a business has multiple sites, then, and you've got solar or a generation asset at one or more of the sites, then you can basically export the energy that you create to your other sites. So obviously that reduces your bills as a whole. And that is pretty much me done. I was trying to get through that pretty quick because I don't know how many people here are kind of want to know about the business tariffs. So if anyone's got any questions, yeah, pop them in the chat. I'll get to answering them. And I don't know if there is, oh, Emma. So I guess hand back to Liz and then to Emma, I guess, if that's okay. The way that we're running it.
Yeah, we are. Thank you very much, Becky. I was kind of interested in your last slide. I've been multitasking, so only half. Yes. So this is, I was just trying to work out. So this is when you're assessing, is this that you've put the solar on the roofs yourselves, or is this for working with businesses that have put, or have I completely lost track? I was just thinking about community energy groups that have a portfolio of solar projects. I think that's where I was thinking, and how that might relate.
Yeah, so if you've got a portfolio and you've got multiple accounts in that portfolio, then what you can do is if one of those sites has solar or has a renewable asset, then you can transfer that to other sites which are in your portfolio. Okay. So say you've got a site that has solar and another site which has higher energy consumption and you need it from the site that maybe doesn't use as much, then you can transfer that. So you can basically sleeve that into your other site. So it reduces the cost of energy for the additional site.
I don't know if other people, if other community energy groups here, I just wonder if that might be an opportunity for community energy groups that have possible generation projects, or maybe on a rooftop of a warehouse where the warehouse doesn't use very much electricity, but it's a site. I just wonder if that's a possibility for I don't know, to make a project add up. But Benny Talbot has a question, and then she's raised her hand, or he's raised his hand, and then I will hand over to Emma to round up, and then we'll go to questions, many of which I see have been very thoroughly answered by Maximilian. So thank you. Benny, you might have to unmute yourself.
That would probably help, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just following on from what you were saying, Liz. and trying to understand the tariff that Becky is describing. So if community energy groups will mostly own generation, but they won't own facilities that consume power directly. So does your tariff only work when the generator and the off-taker are owned by the same organization? Or could we as a community group, for example, come to an arrangement with a school that we've got panels on, that they take the energy, even if that school is owned by a different, has its own organization?
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, all of the businesses that could sleeve the energy have to be in the same portfolio, so they have to be in the same accounts. So they have to kind of be the same business. So I don't think that it's possible to sleeve the energy from one business into another if they're completely separate entities.
Okay, and is there any limit on where the two sites have to be located, like the distance between the two of them?
Nope, can be around the UK.
And finally, what sort of cost benefit would you expect to receive from sleeving between a site and a generator that are within your portfolio?
I'm not too sure off the top of my head. I've got some additional sources that I can share following this, which I'm sure Liz will probably be able to send out, which has a lot more factual data information than what I'll be able to say now, and I don't want to say anything wrong. So I'll definitely share that and let you know what the savings are or could potentially be for the business by sleeving the energy.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Becky.
Thanks,
Amanda has a question.
Hi, Amanda here. So what are the rates for someone on a shapeshifter? So if you've got like 50 properties, commercial properties, and they're smallish pub style, what type of rates do you offer with the shapeshifter's ability to move energy from a solar property to another, that if you have overflow?
So that isn't something that we can do on shapeshifters. Shapeshifters is just for the individual business. So that doesn't sleeve energy, that doesn't transfer energy somewhere else. So I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me just re-clarify. For the max power, where you're able to move solar back and forth, do you have like a fixed rates, or do you have different tariff options for that business? Because it sounds like it's only one thing there in the max power. You can move solar from one business to another within your profile, but what are the actual rates for that business?
So I think the rates, again, I'm not too sure on this, but I think the rates are essentially kind of what's live at the moment. So anything that kind of the standard unit rate that would be classed during the time of the export is what would be used. Again, I'll have a little look into that and figure out any direct rates, but I assume that they'll just fluctuate with the wholesale costs.
We've got loads of questions coming through, and it's safe to say not all of us can actually answer these questions. For example, I cannot get a specific number regarding the Octopus matching with wholly owned or direct PPAs, for example. But the good news is I know a man who does know the answer, who humorously is called Matt Bunny. I shouldn't probably laugh at that, but anyhow, I have to speak to Mr. Bunny in order to get that answer to you. So we are more than happy to answer all these questions in loads of detail, but we're not always the people that can give you the straight answer, just because of the size of Octopus, but we will endeavour to do it. And similarly, also, our best rates are always published on our website. So actually, we go straight to our website ourselves to find out what those rates are, because we're highly transparent and we don't even have an intranet. So all I can say is we will come back to you on all these questions, I promise, because some of them are a little bit more niche than maybe our slightly more generalist understanding. Is that a diplomatic way of saying some of them we can't answer, but we will get back to you?
Absolutely right.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you so much. There are more questions, but and we're quickly shifting into the Q&A section because we always have a lively audience with lots of questions. But I would like to hand over to Emma because Emma was going to wrap up and just talk very briefly about zero bills, which sounds great.
Okay, so what is zero bills? Well, it's something that's relatively new. It's been a tariff that we've been offering for about the last 18 months, but in all honesty, probably has only really just started hitting the headlines. So as we discussed, obviously, we have taken all this technology that our amazing database Kraken, which is basically what we all sit on. It manages your individual energy bills through to trading energy on a national and a global scale through to looking at the weather forecast tomorrow. So it's an amazing database. So we've learned, and it's learned how to do this with cars. So we thought, why couldn't you do this with houses? And our technical director, Nigel Banks, used to be at Ilka, and he now is within our team. But he developed this with Ilka Homes alongside Octopus, and this is one of their homes. So basically, we do send you a bill, but the bill basically says zero on it. And that also includes the standing charge. And we've done this on brand new homes. So basically what you need is you need a domestic battery, you need solar, and we're talking a lot more solar than probably anybody's seen, 18 to 25 panels. That can be on the north, south, east or west side of a roof. Obviously, ideally, we like nice rectangular roofs, but basically a heat pump as well. And then I can't see my own slides because everybody's facing the way, but also the smart meter as well. But no gas, take out gas, and it also requires some broadband connection in order that we have access to the smart meter. So it basically uses our intelligent Octopus platform. It is us controlling all the technology. So you move into the home and you just set your thermostat for when you'd like the heating and the hot water to come on. We do the rest. So it's all installed and we take control of it. So we're either making your house an energy generator or we're making it an energy storage center effectively. And we decide when that technology is the right time to send the solar to the grid to your battery, to the solar to the battery to air source, grid to air source, whatever it happens to be, we control it to optimize your house. And again, this has been mentioned before. There are some considerations. You do need to have a Give Energy battery. Other batteries are coming on stream. We are working with other battery providers, but at the moment, the Give Energy battery is the one. A Valiant or a Daikin air source heat pump, and we are now starting to ramp it up, but also the Octopus Cozy heat pump. So this is our Octopus Cozy. It launched last year. The actual version is in grey, but we're already getting requests, can we wrap the Octopus Cozy into whatever we want? So, you know, we may be seeing these in camo or grey or brick colour or whatever it happens to be coming forward. And this is a high temperature heat pump. And of interest, it's getting up to 65 degrees. We really do think this is going to be taking on the gas boiler in terms of rollout. But there's some benefits of having zero bill homes. We know that people are actually being able to charge a little bit more for them, and they're selling a bit quicker. We also, in the affordable market, know that if somebody is moving into one of these zero bills homes, that actually they can afford to keep on the central heating, keep the fan running, can put the hot food into the oven, because what we say is that you live in a zero bills home up to twice what we think the average household would use. So there's a fair use policy of twice what we expect a homeowner to use. So for those, as I say, particularly in the affordable sector, we see this has huge benefits socially. And also, if you're a landlord, for example, and somebody happens to leave, there is obviously no bill left to be paid. It's still zero. So there's lots of different benefits of the zero bills home. And we also think in time, one of the questions we get added is, can we do this in retrofit? We think when the electric cars can actually come into the house, which we think will be from the end of this year. Imagine driving home, plugging in your car, and your car actually powers your home for a couple of hours over the peak, and then we charge it again overnight. So actually, we've unlocked it in brand new homes. We are now really actively targeting in retrofit. And really where we want to get to is we want the zero bills to become the new standard. We want to take stress away from people living in their homes. And we want to think that this could be achieved in all new homes with the right roof that accommodates the solar now. And so to give some examples, we had the Ilka homes that are out with people living in them. This is Mark. He lives in a Verto home down in the southwest, already on zero bills. Bellway, this is a selection of 3 of the 4 homes that they've now got on zero bills. This is a Persimmon home, which we've just done almost in retrofit. It's just gone to the market, but we've installed zero bills there. This is the most exciting project for me. Full declaration, I used to work for Hill, but this is completely separate. But this is 89 homes in Newport and Essex. It has a private and affordable. It has shared ownership and homes for rent. All of these properties are zero bills. So that's Hill working with Clarion, and it's 64 private and 25 affordable homes. This is a project that we've done with Citra, who are a buy-to-rent customer, and they've taken homes that they've bought straight away off Barratt, off PEG, and we have retrofitted these homes. They're only about 3-4 months old, and we have retrofitted those to zero bills, and they are now being let out to customers as part of the Citra view that they want to turn as many of the properties they're renting out to zero bills. So very quickly, how do you get them accredited? We talk to the people building the homes. It could be a contractor, housing association, developer. They send us the information and we calculate whether we think that they have done enough solar, the right size of battery, and then we accredit the home. And that accreditation sits effectively with the smart meter. So if anybody changes in ownership or occupation, we know it's a zero bills home. And we also have the ability to do the installation if people so wish. But actually, where we're finding it is that contractors on the whole prefer to manage their own supply chain and do it locally. And so this validation point is basically we're taking a lot of information and then we accredit that home. But just very quickly, for those of you who are worried about urban design and things like that, we do require quite a boring roof in order to get as many solar panels on as we can. So Velux windows, things that pop out, they're not particularly helpful. Anything that looks a bit triangular doesn't really sit well with a rectangular solar panel. So, you know, hip roofs are more challenging, homes that link round corners. But on the whole, most affordable homes, for example, do have a much more of a simple roof line, and this is perfect for zero bills. And so you can see here how the solar sits on the site. It is different to the landscape of those homes that don't have solar off to the right-hand side of the picture, but actually from the start, they can be integrated into the roof. They can be put on top of the tiles, and then maybe a consideration for what colour the roof material should be as well in order to see them more integrated in. We work with lots of different sizes of batteries and inverters, and depending on the size of the property, depends on the size of the battery. And so we will work with you to work out which is the right combination of solar and battery sizes. We've also been working with contractors about how we promote zero bills to the general public to make sure people are more informed. And we also now integrate it in with our app and have a fairly seamless, but we can always improve, but customer journey in order to take people through how they onboard with zero bills. I should point out at the moment, car charging is separate to zero bills, but we hope in time that will come forward. We are also starting a project to look at homes that have been built since 2015 to get them to zero bills, because we think the fabric is good enough as long as we can get enough solar on the roof. So we will actively start looking for people who've got relatively new homes that we think can get to zero bills. And that is the end of my presentation. So we're here to help. You know, we want to answer your questions, and, you know, we want to make sure we're doing best by the people you work with and our customers as well.
Thanks so much, Emma. There's so many questions that have ploughed through in the chat box. And yeah, so I'm just sitting here wondering how to manage all the different sorts of questions. So I will hand over to Druv first, because Druv has raised their hand. And then Jeff Barnard, because Jeff had a sort of broader range question. I think there's lots of, you know, we've got like the broad questions, and then we've got these very specific. I've been trying to get hold of someone at Octopus question, and I wonder if those ones maybe we'll leave to, you know, if they're really personal, we can have a little bit after the session and leave to people in a different call, a remote room, a separate room. Druv, go ahead with your question, and then Jeff.
Yep. So I'm Dhruv from Citizens Advice down in Hastings. And we usually do help people out in case they have some questions with regards to making the home a little more energy efficient and things like that. So my question is primarily for Kevin, because he did mention about the Eco4 scheme and the Great British Insulation Scheme as well. So in that, he did mention that social housing would be allowed to avail Eco4 and Great British Insulation Scheme. Is there a certain procedure we need to go ahead with social housing? Because from what we understood earlier from our research, social housing is a no-go for a lot of these cases. But is there a specific procedure we can go ahead doing an Eco4 referral for a client or a Great
Yeah,
British
sure.
Insulation?
So the best route is, rather than, I would personally, you can either drop an email to Eco Admin and we can suggest an installer in your area, or if you do know of an installer of those measures that is PAS accredited, then they can reach out to a utility or a funder to actually talk you through each step. So
Right,
we're
okay.
happy to suggest an installer based on your area, or happy for you to use one of your existing installers to reach out to us.
Right, perfect. Great. And this is for social housing as well, yeah?
Correct.
Perfect, great, thank you.
Jeff.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to ask about the business rates, and we are a green group working in a sort of small town in Sussex, and we're working with our local parish council and to actually try and improve the energy efficiency of community buildings and installing solar and battery, etc. And I'm wondering whether the business rates you were talking about are available for groups like that, which are not specifically businesses.
So it depends on the the way that we do it is basically I imagine so. If it's a site and it's a premises and it's not a domestic home, then that
should work.
Yeah.
Who do you go to? Because I think one of the things is, I think the typical parish clerk is far from being an energy purchasing expert, and they need to have a friendly person to actually talk them through the options and say what's best for them. Is there an email they could contact at Octopus to do that?
Yeah, there is. I'm happy to have a chat with them and kind of go through what the options are.
Okay.
If they are a smaller usage site, then they can just go straight onto our website and get a quote then and there.
Okay, I might follow up with you direct. That'd be good.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Jeff. Rose had a couple of questions about issues for people in rural communities, really. So I'll hand over to you, Rose. It may be bigger than Octopus can answer.
Yeah, hi. I think I did actually get an answer in the chat. I'm involved in a local community energy group in Nidderdale, and we're at the moment trying to get 4 local churches to have solar and battery storage, and we've currently got 1 completed, and we're moving on with it. But our issue is for all of them, really, that about their smart meters. They've had new smart meters installed, some have existing smart meters, and it's that connection which is a problem in rural areas, because I don't know if it's the wireless signal or quite what it was. And personally at home, I've been waiting sort of 6 months since my 3-phase smart meter was installed, and I've chased up a few times, but nothing's really happened. But I think the advice in the chat was to ask for a signal booster. So I don't know whether that would be effective or not, really. So if anybody has any further advice, that would be appreciated, because it's a lot of rural areas have the same issue.
Yeah, I'd just suggest contacting our customer service. We do have options to help smart meters get that extra signal for rural areas. It's not always going to work. We can't ever guarantee anything, but it's always worth trying. Just to ask us to either book you in for a smart meter engineer appointment to install a smart antenna, or if there aren't any available, to get you on a wait list to then get someone sent out. yeah, it's just quite difficult with the way that the radio signals work in rural areas. It's better than they used to be on the 4G, 5G signals on the old smart meters. But it's yes, it's not foolproof, and we're always working ways to improve that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It is interesting because at CES, you know, we have a bit of a broader view, and we work with lots of communities and parishes and lots of rural areas that do have, you know, that we're trying to help them get off oil. So this issue is an additional issue, really, isn't it? Now, who was the next question?
As somebody who's been on oil in a rural area with poor broadband and all those other things, I totally sympathise. However, at the end of the day, we are just an energy provider. We're not, unfortunately, a full solutions provider. And, you know, yeah, we can't take responsibility, unfortunately, for poor broadband signal. But I do know that the rural teams are digging up most of the area around where I live at the moment, causing total chaos. So fingers crossed that for some areas, they do get to you fairly soon.
Yeah. And also, we're not policymakers. Right, I've slightly lost track. Oh, Zoe Osmond, you had a question. May have been answered in the chat.
Oh, hi. Thank you very much. Yes, it has been answered very, very helpfully by Emma, and she's given me her email. I'd like to get in touch, Emma, because we run a green business innovation network from University of Brighton with 3,000 business members. So very interested in that one. Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Lisa.
It's just a little add-on for the rural lack of signal thing. BT are actually removing all of copper and all of the landline by the end of next year. I've been on a couple of calls of this through my parish council. And we're not particularly rural. We're right next door to Gatwick Airport, and yet a lot of our communities still don't have broadband signal. So I'm really pushing this to make sure that they've checked it properly. Because otherwise there's going to be a huge number of people that don't have access to any sort of telephone at all. And I'm really making them focus that there's, you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that they may not be treating as seriously as needs to be. I'm sure they are, but we just haven't heard.
Lisa, it might be worth picking up as well with your in rural areas, obviously it's a county council, but the highways authority, because guess what? Most traffic lights run off. That would be so they've got a massive problem. And so I'm not sure they're going to hit their targets if they want to turn off all the traffic lights out there. But it might just be worth having a word with whoever controls the traffic lights as to what their plan is and what they're saying. That's
I
all right.
will.
I love these sessions for these random bits of advice. Tom, there's been quite a lot of discussion about heat pumps going on in the chat and what's required. So I'm going to hand over to Tom Broughton.
No, it's just a tricky question.
But you might have to speak up a bit, Tom.
It's a tricky question. What is this?
We can't hear you.
I have a problem with my audio. Can you hear me?
Very, very faintly. Just shout.
Okay. What is the seasonal coefficient of performance for the heat pump?
Are any of you able to answer that question?
Which heat pump and where in the country would be my ask?
Okay, South Coast, but the one that you've been promoting and you've just developed last year.
So, Tom, I'm also waiting for a number of these technical informations. All I currently have is the dimensions because we've been testing it in Slough. As soon as we have that information, we will send it out. However, I do know fully that we are trying to beat what's currently on the market. We have taken apart many, many air source heat pumps. We've re-put them back together again. At Slough, we have 2 homes, one built to 1950s building regs and one to 1990s with microbore. And our Octopus Cozy is going through full testing with those homes. Also in Slough, we have a -40 chamber and a +40 chamber temperatures and a sound chamber. And we're testing everybody else's products on the market. So as soon as I have the actual correct data, we will publish it. But I'm not going to try and second guess it and be held to anything. But all I can say is as soon as I have that data, we will be making that public. But I don't actually have that figure to hand. Others may have it, but we want to make sure it's the best it can possibly be before we actually go and release it to everyone.
I did have another question about what happens after 5 years with a net zero.
Well, you know what? Give it about a month and we think we'll be saying 10 years. Okay. So Greg Jackson has been saying 10 years, but it hasn't quite got all internal approvals internally. But we think we will be soon saying 10 years. But anyhow, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, all the equipment is owned by that home. So there's possibility, it says guaranteed. We think it will roll on further because of but it will therefore be the asset life that determines, you know, how long the zero bills can go on for. But if you're willing to keep replacing the assets, in theory, there should be no reason why the tariff comes to an end. Obviously, hopefully, other tariffs will be available from other providers by then as well, to keep us on our toes. So there's more choice for the customer. And obviously, the customer can leave at any time. We should also say if the developer or the housing associations have put zero bills on these homes, there is no obligation on the tenant or the purchaser of the home to come to us. They again can choose anybody else and they can leave literally without any fees instantly. But obviously, if there's some money that needs to be paid over or they've gone over, there will be a reconciliation. But in theory, on the whole, it shouldn't come to an end. But if it does come to an end, there will still be a variable tariff that works with all of the smart tech that will keep that bill incredibly low versus what a non-tech home would require. And just by way of background, there's a report that should come out quite soon. The University of Cambridge have taken a load of data, done an independent report. I've seen some of the initial findings. It hasn't been published, but just so you know, an EPC-A home, 3-bed, has an average bill, if it's an electrified home, of about £1,900 a year. So even if you're an EPC home, you've got quite a large bill, and we're saying we can take that to zero. So the cost saving as a household is fairly huge over a year, over 5 years, over 10 years. So yeah, it does have some real social benefits.
Thank you. There have been a couple of people I've been asking to unmute because they had questions, and I don't know if they have. One of them was Glenn Buckingham, and the other one was the woman who's working at Waterford Can. But they're not coming forward. Well, in that case, I just suggest you just raise your hand if you have questions, because I've slightly lost track of everything that's going on in the chat box. So does anyone have any further questions? Because if not, I have a couple.
Sorry, Liz. Yeah.
Oh, Steph.
I'm guessing I could be the water one. It's water.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Yeah, Water Can. It's just Waterside Climate Action Network. We've been going a little while now. It's just been a parish council initiative that I started to just see if we could involve the local community, and it's been really successful with some interesting people joining it. So we've tried to do the community energy, and it's at the beginning. So that was my question. I think you were trying to answer to me. That was all it was. And also the fact that we've the clerk at the parish council, when we tried to get her involved, all she said was that SSEN had a backlog and it'd be 15 years before we'd get anything being generated. So I think someone's just said, are we in contact with Laura Wilson, which we are, but at the very beginning of it, and I was just trying to find out if there was a faster track for the members to use here.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, keep in touch with Laura, and your parish clerk will be. There are lots of requirements on the DNOs to make make access a little easier. So it might be that the information your clerk is given, might be a little bit out of date. Anyway, let me hand over to. I imagine you'll get lots of good quality information and contacts from Laura. So I'll hand over to Lisa and then Pete West. Nice to see you, Pete.
Yeah, I think you may have partially answered my question, Emma. Thank you. It was about the zero bills, and I'm just about to have a new system added. I've got an 18-year-old PV system, which is a baby 1.28 kilowatts. So it's about ready for upgrade. And I was looking at 16 panels, but I see you want 18. I could probably switch them on, but it was really about.
Sorry, it's the thermal capacity of your house. That's the issue. I just don't know. We don't think we can get to zero bills yet before the 2013 building regs, which on the whole kicked in on homes built since 2015. However, we're up for giving it a go and testing it. And we think for really good retrofit, like proper deep dive retrofit, we can get there.
Okay, maybe we'll take this online, but it was a bit technical about DNOs and things. Would and the inverter, would it, because I know I'm not really up on this, but the DNO G98 is for an inverter that's less than 3.68. But if you've got a lot of panels, you'd potentially want a bigger inverter and then need a G99. And I've heard that there's been some refusals on those, but maybe it's better to take this offline.
We can take it offline, and just so you know, Octopus actually owns an IDNO called Eclipse Power. So quite possibly I'd bring in some experts there to help you. So I am not an expert, but I do know it's called a G99, and that's what you need to export back into the grid. So there we go. That's about the limit of my knowledge, but I know some people who know.
Thanks, I'll email.
G100 for anything over a certain amount. There's a few different Gs.
Okay.
I'll hand over to Pete.
Yeah, hi. It's quite a broad question, I think, for Octopus, but it's something that absolutely fascinates me. Utility companies, energy supply companies, are out to maximise profit. I'm actually Secretary of Energy Local Bridport. We've worked with Octopus for about 3 years now. You're supplying 50 local householders with wind energy from a local wind turbine at 24p. You've got your Octopus fan club where you're supplying local wind energy at a discounted price. And then you've got your Octopus tracker where you're passing on the savings to households. I just can't understand why you're not trying to maximize your profit. Have you got any, any sort of ideology behind this?
I mean, I don't know whether others want to come in, but all I can suggest is you listen to our amazing podcast series that Greg does. So that his motivations behind setting up Octopus. If you like Radio 4, and you can go back on the Sounds app and listen to Greg on Desert Island Discs. But everything we do is about our customer. And I've only been here for 6 months, but I had a 3.5-day induction all about the customer. In my whole career, I've never had such a strong, focused induction. Our sales team, or not the sales team, but the people on the phones, they have a 3.5-month induction process. They are some very highly qualified people who are motivated to be in this sector. The motivation is strong to do best and disrupt. And all I can say, it's an ethos that sort of breathes through the entire company. And doing right often comes above going for profit, if I'm honest with you. But I would say listen to the podcast. We're just employees, but the real ethos and the strength of feeling really comes from Greg. And the podcasts, I think, probably explain that better than we ever could.
If I can expand on that, it was, Greg's dream child to build a company core ethos to build a green company so that everyone can use less fossil fuels, and then eventually over a period of time just eradicate fossil fuels entirely. So I mean, even if hopefully in our lifetime, but if not, then our children's lifetime. Yeah, as Emma said, that's just an ethos that's spread across the whole company.
Paul.
Hi, like Pete, we're part of an energy local club. We're only just beginning in settling North Yorkshire, but we want to use, well, we're more or less in a situation where we have to use multiple generators, because I think Pete's scheme involves a single wind generator, whereas we want a mixture of hydro, possibly wind and rooftops. And I think 100 Green are the only energy company that can support that kind of scheme. Am I right in thinking that Octopus will only deal with a single generator for an energy local scheme?
I think we're running as fast as we can to catch up with the needs of what people want. We're not perfect, and I don't think we are there yet, if I'm entirely honest with you. However, we are starting to look at microgrids quite seriously and how we can do stuff, household side of the meter. Yeah, I think we can do better, but at the moment, I don't think we can. But we're willing to talk to you, talk to products, see projects, see what we can offer. The problem is they're a little bit niche, and we're trying to roll out more sort of widely what we can get out. So and we're not here to squash innovation either. There are other people out there offering good products and good things. So I'm more than happy to have a conversation if you want to email me. But I would say probably at the moment it's a bit more complicated than we can offer you. But who knows? Give it another couple of years.
Yeah, thank you.
Benny.
Hi, I assume I'm next because I was asked to unmute. Just following on the energy local questions, because that's something of interest to us too. And I think, given this is a community energy group call, it is something of particular interest to our sector. I work for Bath and West Community Energy, and we've got about around 13 megawatts of solar, a significant proportion of which is on PPAs with Octopus. And we've got a number of sites that we're hoping to set up as energy local clubs soon. However, we're looking to transition away from Octopus to PPAs with other suppliers, because as we understand it, Octopus is no longer taking on any new energy local clubs. So we'll have to move our generation in order to set up those systems. I put a question in the chat, but I don't think I had a response. So I just wanted to check, are you reconsidering, or is there any time frame for making a decision on whether you will be taking further energy local clubs on in the future? I'd be very interested to discuss that if so, because obviously we'd rather keep with Octopus, who we're already selling our energy to.
So the way Octopus is structured is there's lots of different Octopus companies. None of us actually represent those parts of those companies. So what I can do is I can take that offline. I wasn't aware of that, but I'm more than happy to go and ask. It's probably Octopus Energy Investments or Octopus Energy Generation that have done that, but I just need to go find you the right people. I will ask the question. It says Unity deal with Energy Local. Okay, so in the chat. Sorry, I don't know whether that answers your question, but Unity's a 50-50 owned joint venture with the co-op. So we fund it and they sort of sit alongside us, but I can ask that question if you
If you could, that would be great, because I'd be very happy to set up a club with an Octopus. That would be brilliant. It would make things a lot easier on our side.
So the lady who runs that is a lady called Michaela Cryer, who I do know. So I'm more than happy to pick that up with her.
Brilliant. I'll put my email address in the chat.
Perfect.
If there are no more immediate questions, I have a couple that I would like to, a couple of, not questions, but things I'd like to raise. So early on, Maximilian talked about wanting to get onto one of the Octopus tariffs and needing a smart meter and needing to tackle his landlord. And it's something that I have a particular bugbear about. I've talked to the network operators about this. A lot of the work that we do in community energy is with owner occupiers, and a lot of people who want to take positive action on climate change are younger people who live in private rented. And so I was just wanting to know if you've got anything you can say about how your tariffs, how younger people can use your tariffs to do something constructive. I'll put that to you, Maximilian, because you were talking about your issue with your landlord.
Yeah, so I mean, some of the great, like Octopus Tracker and Octopus Agile. Agile is definitely aimed at those who are either home more often and want to use their energy more sort of more agile and just keep checking the rates sort of every half an hour. If they see it's really low during the morning, then stick on their appliances then. During the peak hours, obviously it's spiking quite high when everyone's getting home from work, putting the cooking on, and so to avoid it from then. But in terms of getting landlords on board with things, it's doesn't really affect them. So it's more just giving more knowledge in terms of future-proofing the home, in terms of getting onto these types of tariffs for future residents and even like themselves if they ever decide to use it as their retirement home or something. But yeah, in terms of smart meters, it's just trying to get everything. At the moment, they're free. In a couple of years, the government might mandate that they'll have to be compulsory. So anything could happen then. So it's may as well get them while they're free, get it installed and start benefiting in the meantime.
Okay, thank you. you've just got me thinking a couple of other things. Then my other question, and there will be people who are far more experienced, there'll be community energy groups far more experienced than I, but I was interested in this. One of the things that I'm very struck with is an issue that I wonder if between community energy and Octopus there is a solution, which is all these, as I mentioned earlier, the warehouses, the rooftop solar, the non-rooftop solar projects that should be happening, but again, because of the issues between who owns the building and energy use within the building and how you create a workable PPA, I just think that's just wonder if there's a way that Octopus and community energy groups could be working together to create some solutions. So I'll put that to Emma and Becky and any very active community energy groups here who are experienced at on the business side of the generation. Benny, maybe you might have something to say, or Tom Broughton might. No, nothing.
I mean, I personally, this is a personal opinion, think that this type of solution is going to have to be the future, especially in places like West London, where there's huge problems with power supplies that people are going to have to generate and share and move things around. But I do think we're quite a way away from that at the moment. In terms of us personally, I think we're willing to consider looking at projects, but again, I don't think we're totally there yet on that front. So apologies. I mean, we'd love to be in this space. We'd love to be doing everything, to be honest. And, you know, but I'm not sure we're desperately set up brilliantly for that at the moment. This is why we set up Unity, was to, you know, try and assist as well. So I think bear with us, but if you want to talk to us, I can see what I can do, but that's not, falls a little bit out of the remit of the people on the call.
And are there community energy groups here who've been looking at rooftop solar on, you know, relatively empty warehouses, or not even empty warehouses, but just warehouses, and struggle to create a business model? Are there people here who've done that? Okay, maybe not. Go on, Benny.
I'll just jump. Yeah, we're certainly looking at many options, including building new sites which supply less on-site load and export more. And essentially the business, this is why it comes back to the energy local question that has been raised a number of times, because for a community group that wants to kind of operate on a community kind of small regional level, it's about bringing together a few large generation and storage sites with multiple small businesses or domestic users. And so what we need is an arrangement that creates that local connection and realizes value from it. And as far as I'm aware, the energy local approach is the only local tariff which recognizes value from keeping energy within a local area. So that's what we're looking at to do those sort of projects, and that's why it's such an important area for us. We're also very supportive of future regulatory change if that enables other options. But yeah, right now it is that's the one show in town, really.
Yeah, thank you, Benny. Pete.
And for that, you do need a supplier. You need a licensed supplier who's providing exempt supply services to facilitate the scheme, which Octopus has done previously, but I'm not sure they're taking on new ones right now.
Okay, thank you.
Just a comment, Liz. I think there's a lot happening in mainland Europe, and they call it, you know, energy sharing or peer-to-peer trading. And I think E.ON are leading on this, using Octopus's cracking software, actually. They've got E.ON Next. Yeah, it's quite, I find that quite encouraging that mainland Europe has got a directive requiring all communities or even households to be able to share their electricity with neighbours. So
have they really?
I think, as Emma said, it's happening, but I'm sure Octopus is spread on so many different things, they can't focus on just the one.
I think it will happen, Pete, as well. I mean, we're now set up in Spain, Italy, France, Germany, places like, you know what I mean? So we are actively taking our learnings from other countries. I think we're now in about 15 or 16 countries around the world. So we are trying to take learnings from colleagues in other countries and bring them to the UK, and similarly export ideas created here to other countries. So I think we will get there, but, you know, good on some of the other energies companies stepping into this space. You know, we can't be everywhere all the time, and so yeah, so apologies, I don't know what everybody else is up to, but but possibly in time we will be there, catch up, take over, run with them. I don't know, but let's hope. From my community hat on, we need to be doing more to support.
Well, great. Maybe we'll get Eon to come and talk about their peer-to-peer selling. Presumably in Germany to start with. I mean, I imagine that's where it's come from. Right. Does anyone else have any further questions or observations they'd like to make, or are we actually going to end this early, which would be extraordinary? Oh, thank you, Connie. Right, well, in that case, thank you so much to our speakers. I think that's been, and thank you for answering all those questions in the chat box. I'm really grateful. I do hope it's been valuable for everyone who's joined. I hope you're going to feel a bit better informed to go and support the people that you work with, as well as maybe sorting out any personal issues that you've had. Yes, I agree, Jeff. There has been an awful lot of detail. Just as it was pointed out earlier, if you want to save the chat box, you can save it by, you click on the 3 little dots at the top of the chat box where it says flexibility tariffs, and you can save the chat so you can take all this information away with you, all these questions and answers, and take in a bit more of the information that we've mined. We'll put the recording on the YouTube channel, and we will Octopus people, thank you so much for your presentations. I'd be very grateful if you could email them to me after the session, and then I can send them out to everybody who registered to attend. We had a lot fewer people who attended than who registered, but I think that happens a lot, so I'm going to put it all out there for those who couldn't actually make it in person. And thank you very much, everyone. I think it's been an interesting and valuable conversation. Thank you.